Good afternoon, app makers. It's Behzad here from Hey World Coder. Welcome back to another video of how to implement Google Maps to your Android Studio. In this video, I've set up my objective for registering our pager. The first one is we need to validate user inputs, whatever they put on as an email, full name and password. Then we need to register that user based on some specific information, and we need to store those registration information on our database. I have quickly going through the pathway how we are going to handle it, and then we will going back to our coding. The first thing is we need to initialize tools, which I remember we have done this one in our previous video. The second step is we need a method to validate user inputs such as the email and password. Then once everything is ready from this method, we move into our method, the other one, which is handling the user information and transformation from our Android project to our database. Then we need a bridge between our app and database, which it will be implementing this information to our database. Then we need to run register button. That means whenever the user click on the register button, we have to handle all of this information and process successfully and store all the information or uniquely on our database. Then the last step is handling the successful or failed registration, and we are considering what it caused them if something goes wrong. And the last step, as you see, is the final one, is how to register your user successfully registered to your app. Going back to our Android Studio, here we left in our register page. So as you see, we initialized our debugger tag, and we have initialized our view bending. Just come down in your field area above your onCreate, just write down string, small s, just put down full name, small s email, small s password, and that's all. So the main reason is we need these strings here in the field area because we are going to use them in a couple of internal method. That's why I made them field to be accessible by other method. We set up our bending view here as our set content view. We need two variables from our Firebase. One of them is Firebase auth and the other one is Firebase database. Just write down private. Again, we are in field area. Capital F, Firebase auth. That's the first one. That is handling the registration using the user email and password. Just write down Firebase auth with a small f. So this is a variable from our main class, semicolon. The second one is our Firebase database here. So that is handling the storage of the user information on database. Then coming down here, just small f. And again, this is a variable for our main class, semicolon here. So these variables are working for now. Then come down inside your onCreate. We have to initialize these variables we created here. Just write down Firebase auth equals to, we need to get an instance from our main class. Just capital F, Firebase auth dot get instance, semicolon. Same for the Firebase database equals to Firebase database get instance and semicolon. So we initialized these variables inside our onCreate. That means whenever the app runs, automatically we will get an instance from these two, and that doesn't need any variables we are going to use. It doesn't need to initialize it in every single method that we are going to create. That works for now. Then we coming down here, we need to validate user input. This method is going to validating whatever the user puts on, it is valid, and it runs inside execute reg button. Just write down private. We need a capital Boolean. Why do we need Boolean? Because we have to return the answer of this method that we are going to create. Either it is true or it is false. That's why we need a Boolean. Validate user input, and parentheses, coming down, copy off your comment and bring it down here. Then we need a debugger, logd. So that is creating a debugger for us as a developer. We are making sure this method is running successfully with no issue. That's why we need a debugger. And do not worry about it. Later on, I'm going to teach you one specific lesson on how to handle a debugger and how to read them. Coming down here, this is a Boolean. We have to initialize the result for it as a true or false. We are starting off with false. Just write down Boolean result equals to false. Why is false? We are assuming what the user hasn't put anything else here, and that's why we assume it is false, and that's the return of this method, unless we are returning opposite of the false statement, which it will be true. Then coming down here, we need these three variables we created here initializing to something in our XML layout. Just write down s full name. We got it from our field area. Then we need to initialize this full name to this full name variables here. Let me bring up the XML widget. We need to handle it to here, and we got an ID for it. Just write down equals to. We need our view bending, or we register bending dot. We are going to get our new user full name from our XML. The entry of this edit text, it will be text. We are returning getting text, and we are converting into a string. Why is a string? Because a string is readable by our Java codes. Come down here, same for email. They are ready for now, and now we are going to handle what will happen inside the validate user input. The first thing we need to check either these variables are empty or not. So how you are doing it, just write down an if condition. The first one is we are going to check if they are empty. How we are going to do it? Because we are converting these variables to a string and we initialize them for a string. String has a capability to check as an empty method. What I mean by that, just let me write it down for you. Is s full name dot is empty. This is empty is one of the variables from our string classes, so that's we implement into this. Then we coming down here, we all checking email dot is empty or full name dot is empty. So if they are empty, we are going to run a toast message here. We're going to run this toast message and tell the user the fields cannot be empty, which that is the very simplest message we can tell our user. Field cannot be empty. That works. And now here we are handling. If they are not empty, that means the user already put something in it. Writing down result, it turns to true. That means we're opposite of our false. Coming down here, below your else condition, we need to return this result. Just write down return result and semicolon. So simply this is done. Quickly I will go through it once I finish all the method, and then we know what are they going to do. And below your validate user, just write down we need to send user data to database. Same, it runs inside execute reg button. We do not have the execute reg button method yet, and we will create it soon, but let me finish this here. And here we need to have a private void and send user data to database. We need a debugger, logd. What is this method going to do? User details stored on database. That's work. There we go. So copy your comment on top, bring it down. So this is our method is ready. Then we need a database reference, which is database reference is basically giving a route where you are going to store the information from each user in this register page on database. just write down database reference with capital D. Make sure you are importing a correct class. We're giving a name to him, user database ref equals to. Now we need to use our Firebase database variables which we initialized here and handle those information and send them to database. Just write down Firebase database dot get reference and semicolon. Inside the get reference, we need to create a path where how we are going to store this information. And one thing you have to remember, however you are going to store them, it is very important to remember how you've done it, because later on if you're going to retrieve information from your database, you have to exactly follow the same path to return those information from your database. So it's very important how you write it down here. What I like to do is just put a user / this is our main folder, then the subfolder will be user detail. That's it. So this is our method, it's ready. Private void execute, or just copy the name from here and drop it down here. Put it down, then coming down, copy your comment. Oops, sorry. Copy your comment and bring it down here. We're making our container. So we need a debugger. So we are writing down user pressed red button. So we know what it's going to do. And we need to initialize the button first. How we are going to do it, we need to get an instance from our view bending, register page bending. Now we are going to work on our register button dot set on click listener. So this top one, and new on click listener. Make sure you importing correct one here, and it will automatically run for you. What is the set on click listener does? Whenever the user clicks on the red button, it will execute an action. That's why set on click listener does. Now here we down inside our override method, we have to do some running codes. So what we are going to do is we write down just if condition. So the if condition is we have to run this method and we have to make sure the result of this method internally it is true, then we let the user move on to the next step. So we just write down validate user input. The first step is we are going to check if the result of this method is true or not. If it's true, then we're moving on to sending user data to database. And they are all set for now. So execute reg button is running inside onCreate. Come up to your onCreate below your Firebase database. Just write down execute reg button and all set. If I'm going to quickly review what we're going to do is the first step is we have to validate user input. So what does that mean? We have to make sure the user who is going to register to our page, they are legitimate and they are putting right information in right character what we are asking for. Then we are returning a result for that action, either it's false or true. If it's true, we're moving to the next step, which is here sending the user to database. We are creating a folder and subfolders on our database, or root, basically I should say it in a database way, is we are storing those information based on however we want it. And as I mentioned, you have to make sure how you store them, because later on if you're going to retrieve them from the database, you must make sure you return them back in a right way. Then we have these two methods. The last one is inside our click listener. Whenever the user clicks on register button, we are coming down as quickly as we can to check if the result for validate user input is true. If it's true, then it will send the user to database and all is going back to our login page. So that's it for this video. If you do have any question, as usual, please write it down in a comment. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Thanks for your time watching, and I will see you all in next video.